few of you kept saying, who's Marlabs earlier today. So at lunchtime, we put in 1 or 2 slides on just who Marlabs is, so you know a little bit about who we are. We'll do a cloud computing snapshot. For some of you, it may be, as we were told politely, our school book report, but we've learned that you have to kind of level set some. And then we're going to get to the heart of it, which is private, public, and hybrid. What do you do? How do you do it? And what are some of the things you should think about? We won't get as technical as some of our other colleagues that were on earlier, but hopefully it'll get you to thinking about that. Our team has created, with some input from Robert, a real-world scenario. I don't know how close it is, but we will go through that a little bit, and then we have a few case studies. Yes, sir.
Can I just get you to do the lecture from the other side? If you walk
Sure.
in front of the screen, we'll lose you to the TV. It'll white out and disappear. Sorry, guys. You know, I'm
Does that work?
Production value. Thanks.
Okay. So a little bit about Marlabs. We started in 1996. We are headquartered in Piscataway, New Jersey. We are a global company. You can see some of the sites that my colleague manages, from Toronto to Mexico City to Brazil, India. On it, I believe you just opened up Malaysia not too long ago, and of course we're in the UK. What we don't have on there is we're also active in France and in Germany, and trying to see if there's anything else. I think that's about it. So we are a system integrator. You see the usual suspects up there. Coming from New Jersey, we are going to be in the healthcare and life sciences. We're involved in public sector, and I'll talk about a cloud case study that we do there for the for actually state and local government, but where Washington, D.C. is at, so we'll talk about that. Of course, today we're going to focus on energy and utilities. So we do the typical things you would expect a system integrator to do. We do custom application services. We do packaged application services, business intelligence, testing, and of course, infrastructure services. On the infrastructure services, our corporate headquarters is a former AT&T network operating center. So we have a tier 1 data center in our basement. For guys like me, we get to do a lot of fun things down there. We have a backup data center in Pennsylvania, and then we have a few offshore in India. So what is cloud? A lot of hype out there about the cloud. Everything from architecture to service-oriented to web to software plus services, infrastructure as a service. Kind of hazy and foggy depending on who you talk to. If you talk to our brethren on the hardware side, they'll give you a hardware-centric approach to the cloud. If you talk to the software guy, they'll tell you they can do everything with software. And then of course, us guys in services, we say we do it all. So I wouldn't be a good consultant if I didn't put a definition up there. I'll let you read that from Forrester. We like to narrow it down to 3 basic things. First of all, pay as you go. Second of all, infinite computing resources. Third component, on-demand scalability. When you need it, as you want it. Where did the cloud come from? From the internet. So what are some of the drivers behind cloud computing? 50% of all business devices are going to be smartphones. 84% of the workforce, think about it, they're not in an office somewhere. They can be anywhere remotely. In your line of the business, at least for this conference, no telling where they are, looking at some of the slides from the Russ before me. Now here's what gets interesting. 85% of that IT capacity is sitting there. Why? Because of the way you had to design your services for redundancy. more importantly, you're spending 70% of your budgets just to support that stuff. So, NIST, National Institute of Standards, these are their definitions of the service models for the cloud. You can see the typical stack, network, compute power, databases, applications on top. You hear a lot about infrastructure as a service. Here are the things that you hear in there, everything from server clusters, server virtualization, desktop virtualization. We heard a presentation earlier on storage. Okay, wide area networks, I believe someone will be talking about that a little later. And of course, firewalls and security. So what changes with the cloud? Okay, the traditional infrastructure, you have low utilization. Or your business stops, one or the other. And the infrastructure as a service, you have moderate to heavy utilization because you're using somebody else's equipment. Very labor intensive, not a lot of automation, whereas with infrastructure as a service, you look for a lot of automation, excuse me. Physical and virtual and infrastructure as a service, and a path to the public cloud. It's all about efficiency. So what else do they talk about? Platform as a service. Here are some of the things from email to HR systems to collaboration, CRM. What things change? I'll just click through these. Now you have to think about servers, your virtual machines, your network storage in the application, whereas if you work with a cloud provider, it's platform as a service. Now you have to worry about your patch releases, services, what version do you have on each piece of equipment? Are they in sync? How do you pay for all that? Let somebody else worry about that headache. You got to put it together yourself, comes ready-made. Static deployment, you have to size it for your peaks. Whereas if you go with the cloud, you're able to say on demand, I can scale. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So, what are the benefits of the cloud? Should you do public? Should you do private? Should you do hybrid? Should you do anything? So Gartner did a study, and one of the things they ask is, are you going to have a private cloud computing strategy? 76% of the respondents said yes. For those who do have a cloud strategy, or they're doing cloud computing, they said, where are you going to put your money going forward? More of them are looking more private. So can anybody say what the difference is between a public and a private cloud? Don't be shy. Speak up. So.
Shared versus dedicated infrastructure.
Okay, so we got shared versus dedicated. Security. What else? Cost. Quality of service. Capacity. Gentlemen. Ron? What do you think of when you hear public or private? Internal, external. Okay. So here are some factors, and I'll let you look at those. Green being, okay, lower risk, no risk. Yellow being moderate risk. What you run into with the public cloud, and I'm not going to talk a lot about what happened with Amazon. There's a lot of write-ups about that. But that's what you can run into is the impact if there's an outage. Because it's a shared environment, what we like to say, if the building catches on fire, all the condominiums catch on fire. That's what you run into if you go with the public cloud. Whereas with private, the big issues that you have to think about are scalability and your elasticity. And what does that mean? The basic blocking and tackling from IT doesn't disappear just because you go in the cloud. You still have to do capacity planning. If you don't do capacity planning, you're still going to have those same problems. You gentlemen agree? Yep. So what's a hybrid cloud? You hear a lot about the hybrid cloud. There are two models. One school of thought is cloud bursting model. So when it rains, you have something to catch the overflow. The other approach says you kind of do things balanced. You look at what applications